Marian Jordan Ellis, and welcome back to 5 Minutes in the Word with Redeemed Girl Ministries. Today, our passage is one that I believe is a word of hope for anyone who is struggling with despair, anxiety, or really just that spirit of hopelessness. You may not be there right now, but perhaps you have been there and you know what I'm talking about. It's where the world seems dark, it seems black, and you are just grasping for a light, a ray of light. And that is what this passage brings to us. We are looking at Lamentations chapter 3, verses 21 through 23. Let's look at it together. It says, "This I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. Because the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness." If you've been around the church for any amount of time, you've probably heard the old hymn, "Great is your faithfulness." And it was written based on these verses. Well, let's look at these verses. Let's unpack them. First of all, let's look at the context. The context is this. It is written by the prophet Jeremiah. The book Lamentations was written by the prophet Jeremiah. A prophet is a man who was called of God, anointed by God's Spirit, and he spoke messages from God to the people. Now, Jeremiah was called specifically to the nation of Judah and to at the time that they were going into captivity in Babylon. The reason for this captivity and the destruction of Jerusalem was happening is because the nation of Israel, God's people, had broken covenant with God. And what that means is when God established them as a people, he said, "I will be your God and you will be my people." Now, this is the old covenant. This does not apply to you and I in Christ today. This is the old covenant. We are under the new covenant. In the old covenant, their covenant had some stipulations. It says, God said, "If you keep my commandments, if you do not rebel and you do not turn away from me and chase after other gods." Well, the Israelites did those things. God's people turned away from him. And as a result of rebellion and sin and darkness and worshiping these false idols, God allowed their enemies, the Babylonians, to come in and to ultimately destroy Jerusalem. And the people of God were actually taken captive by their enemies. God had said in the old covenant that there were blessings for obedience and there were curses for disobedience. And he said to them, choose life or to choose death. And when they chose rebellion and they chose to turn away from God, those curses and destruction came upon them. Now, fast forward into the time of Jeremiah. He is the prophet of God in this time that this is actually happening, and seeing the temple of God be destroyed in Jerusalem, watching as God's people are being taken in shackles into slavery. This is happening around him. And from what his eyes can see, it is total destruction. From what his eyes can see, he has no reason to hope for the future. From what his eyes can see, it is the end of everything he knows. So in the midst of this, you can understand in the natural why Jeremiah would be depressed. You can understand in the natural why he would say these words. Look at the context of our memory verse. Just a few verses ahead, Jeremiah is speaking and he says, "I remember my affliction and my wandering, and the bitterness and the gall." That's a man being honest. He is not in a happy place. He is not in a good place right now. "I remember them, and my soul is downcast within me." Why? It's because he's looking around and what he's seeing in his circumstances is destruction, the end of life as he knows it, and in the natural, he is hopeless. But what does he do? He doesn't stay there, and neither do you and I. When we in our natural circumstances, maybe life is not going as what we wanted, or maybe we're like the Israelites and we have gotten ourselves into a mess, or maybe we are experiencing some suffering. You know, what do we do in that moment? Is that the end of the story? Is this the rest of our future? No. What does Jeremiah teach us to do? Let's look back at our verse. He says, "This I call to mind." So the content of our passage teaches us what to do when we are in a place of despair, what to do when our circumstances have overwhelmed us to the point that we are hopeless. What do? First thing, we get to choose what we think about. Instead of setting our eyes and setting our focus on the rubble and the destruction, we have to choose to set our minds on who God is and his promises. So Jeremiah teaches us, he says, "This I call to mind." we get to think about what we think about. And as a result of focusing our minds, what happens? Therefore, I have hope. Why does he have hope? Why can he have hope in the midst of destruction? Why can you have hope in the midst of the things that you're going to? Because of the Lord's great love. Because his compassions were not consumed. Because this is not the end of the story. I want you to say to yourself right now, this is not the end of my story. When Jeremiah talks about the Lord's great love and his compassion, that word in Hebrew means like the womb. It's like describing a mother's womb and how she cannot help but love that infant because that infant came from her. And when God looks at us, his children, it's like that same motivation from a mother to her child of, I have to take care of that baby, is how God feels for us. The reason you can have hope when your circumstances look bad is because of God's love for you. And that's what Jeremiah had to tell himself. This is not the end of the story for God's people because he loves us. And he goes on to say, he is faithful. His faithfulness is new every morning. Every morning that we wake up, just as the sun rises, just as God holds the world together, his promises never fail. Believer, beloved of God, here's the great hope of our soul. If God has said it, it is going to happen. The reason that we can rise up and stand firm and have hope when the rest of the world does not. The rest of the world may put their hope in the stock market or their appearance or all of these fickle things that are going to fall around us. But our hope is anchored in the greatness and the faithfulness of our God, who will never leave us nor forsake us, who is writing the rest of our story, and he is not finished with it. I pray that this word, which has been such an encouragement to me in my own life, and I have learned to practice it in the midst of despair to say, this I call to mind, therefore I have hope. Great is his faithfulness. I pray you learn to take this word to yourself and to use it to overcome hopelessness and to have hope in our faithful God.